Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Deputy. Can you please state your name for the jury?
Sure, it's Keith Mobley,
And where are you currently employed?
also County Sheriff's Department.
And in what exact capacity are you employed there?
I'm a tactical flight officer for the aviation unit.
Do you have a specific rank?
Just deputy.
And how long have you worked at the Austin County Sheriff's Office?
16 years now.
Do you have any law enforcement experience prior to working at the Sheriff's Office?
Yes, I did 20 years at the semi-retired.
And so would that be a total of 36 years of law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
And what are your current duties at the Sheriff's Office?
Tactical flight officer.
Can you just explain what that is, please?
Sure. In the helicopter, there's two crews. There's a pilot and an observer. I'm the observer. I work with the camera, communicate with the deputies on the ground, to cockpit resource management between the pilot and I, make sure we're safe in the air.
And you worked in that capacity back on February 27th of 2022.
Yes, sir.
And could you go through all of the
suspects or missing people, and then communicate with the deputies on the ground using our cameras.
And just generally speaking, can you go through the training that you go through to become a sheriff's deputy?
Yeah, I have to go through the police academy. Unfortunately, at my time, it's only 580 hours, and I'm sure more now. But once you do that, then you get certified by the state, and then you get employed in a police department in the state of Florida.
Do you have any training specifically in regards to firearms?
Through the academy, sir. Plus, I'm also a firearms instructor.
Do you have any training related to tasers?
Yes, sir. Also Taser instructor.
Do you have training related to tactics used to take down suspects?
Just regular patrol, plus I was on the SWAT team for 10 years.
Do you have any training regarding how to detain a fleeing suspect?
Once again, just basic tactics, securing and handcuffing.
Based on
all the training you received, were you ever trained that if you encounter a fleeing suspect and has not noticed your presence yet, that you should announce your presence to them? If there is a subject that's across the arm, you try not to get them wrong.
Us or others, so you try to covertly position yourself to where you can take it down quickly and safely.
during your training, were you ever taught anything about muscle memory?
It definitely a big factor in law enforcement, especially with the different tactics that we do.
That's what we're trained so often. We're drawing a weapon, drawing a baton, drawing a taser. It becomes second nature, so you don't have to think about it. So there's less time for reaction there. And is that specifically taught because sometimes in the field there's fast-moving situations? It's very dynamic, very fast-moving. And sometimes officers may not have time to think. Yes, sir. Sometimes they may have to be split second. So I believe I was saying, in the field, are there sometimes fast-moving dynamic situations?
Yes, sir. And especially in high-risk situations, pursuits and foot pursuits, vehicle pursuits, entries to buildings and stuff.
Would encountering a suspect who's been fleeing from police be considered one of those high-risk situations?
Yes, sir.
Would encountering a suspect who is the suspect in the aggravated assault with firearm be a high-risk situation?
Yes, sir.
fast-moving, high-risk situations, what are law enforcement officers trained to rely on?
Their skill, their past experience in muscle memory.
How is muscle memory obtained?
Repetition over and over again, hundreds, thousands of times of doing it.
Doing it the same exact way every time?
We strive to do it that way.
Now, back on February 27, 2022, why was the STAR helicopter unit first called out?
We received a report of an aggravated assault with a firearm involving a suspect on a dirt bike.
What did you do after the helicopter was in the air and respond to the area?
Well, we typically start looking for the suspect in a last known direction that was given to us by the ground units.
And in this particular case, were there discussions going on over the radio?
Oh, yes, sir.
And just generally speaking, can you explain how police radios work?
Sure. It's like talking on your phone. The only thing is you have to push and talk, then release to receive the information over the airway.
And I know you just said it's like talking like a phone, but when you call someone on the phone, there's just two people listening and speaking on that conversation typically, correct?
Yes, sir.
Unless you like three-way someone in.
Right.
With radios, though, when you speak on, they're broadcast to everyone else who's on that channel, right?
Yes, sir. Whoever has that frequency can hear you speak.
And in this particular situation, back on February 27, 22, all the deputies who were responding to that call were all on the same channel, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's very typical?
Very, very difficult.
At some point, did you hear a radio transmission from Deputy Kofinas?
Yes, sir.
And did that radio transmission indicate he had identified a suspect of an aggravated assault?
Yes, sir.
Did he indicate he was behind that suspect?
Yes, sir.
Did he indicate he had tried to pull the suspect over?
Yes, sir.
Did he indicate how the person responded to that?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
The people fled from the traffic stop.
Were you able to make, I'm withdrawn, let me reword that. Did you locate the suspect that Deputy Kofinas had told you was the suspect of the aggravated assault?
Yes, sir. The suspect that was given out was located by the air unit.
At the time when you located the suspect, was Deputy Kofinas still following that suspect with those lights and sirens on?
Yes, sir.
So was there any doubt in your mind that that was the suspect Deputy Kofinas had identified as the suspect in the aggravated assault with a firearm?
No, sir.
Did you start following that suspect?
Yes, sir. The airship did follow that suspect.
Did the airship follow that suspect all the way to the Wawa in Orlando?
Yes, sir.
And were you making visual observations about the suspect throughout that time?
Yes, sir.
Now, does the helicopter also have cameras on board?
Yes, sir, they do.
Can you just briefly explain to the jury, how those cameras are operated and how they work?
Sure. In the helicopter, we have a hand controller that works the camera. We have a daylight camera, a low light camera, and a thermal camera.
And can you explain the difference between the different sorts of cameras?
Sure. The daylight camera is like you see on the news crew helicopters. The low light is the same thing. It takes less light to capture an image. And then the thermal camera is an infrared camera where you can see at nighttime heat sources.
And is the infrared camera sometimes referred to as a FLIR?
Yes, sir. Flare forward-looking infrared.
And if you're looking through a FLIR camera, how do things appear when you look at it through that particular camera?
There's 256 different shades of gray is basically what it boils down to. And then it looks, it's like a black and white picture, or it can be a black hot or a white hot, depending on what source you're going to use. But it doesn't show color, it only shows heat sources.
So it primarily is used to identify heat signatures and sources of heat.
Yes, sir.
Was the suspect, withdrawn. At the same time you're making observations of the suspect, was he also being recorded on video by the STAR unit?
Yes, sir.
And was the same suspect you were recording the same person you're making visual observations of?
Yes, sir.
Is that the same person that you've been following since since it fled from Deputy Kafinas' traffic stop?
Yes, sir.
Did you make any observations about how that person was operating the motorcycle?
Yes, sir.
And what were those?
Driving very recklessly, doing wheelies, driving on the wrong side of the road, driving through sidewalks, cutting through roadways, parking lots, doing more wheelies, speeding, running red lights.
Did he ever directly look up at the helicopter?
Yes, sir.
Did it appear to you he noticed the helicopter?
Yes, sir. He indicated it.
And was the helicopter unit relaying observations through the radio to the deputies on the ground?
Yes, sir. That's our primary job.
And were the deputies on the ground also relaying information back over the same radio channels?
Yes, sir.
Do law enforcement officers share information when they're in a pursuit of a suspect?
Yes, sir.
And is that common police practice?
Yes, sir.
Is it common police practice where if one unit identifies a suspect, another unit can arrest that suspect?
Yes, sir.
Do law enforcement officers, when they're speaking over the radio, do they just talk in normal conversational words like we are, or do they use codes?
It varies. Typically, we use 10 codes to shorten our conversations over the radio.
When you say 10 codes, the example would be 10-4?
10-4 is.
This means like okay or yes? Okay. Did the helicopter continue to record video after the suspect arrived at the Wawa?
Yes, sir.
Did the camera, after you arrived at the Wawa, did at some point switch over to that infrared camera?
Yes, sir.
And did that camera capture the suspect's motorcycle?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall how the suspect's motorcycle appeared on the infrared camera?
Typically, with a dirt bike or motorcycle, the engine itself goes really, really hot because it's producing so much heat.
In this particular case, were you able to observe whether that particular motorcycle was very hot according to your observations of the infrared camera?
Yes.
And were you personally able to observe that vehicle being ridden at very high levels or extreme levels
Yes, sir.
for an extended period of time?
Yes, sir.
Would you say somewhere maybe between 20 or 30 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Based on the infrared camera, were the tires of the motorcycle also hot?
Yes, sir.
Would that also indicate to you that that motorcycle was driven beyond its normal limits?
Yes, sir. Typically, with tires, when they are driven at a high rate of speed, they heat up. It's just like you rub your hand on a carpet, heat your hand up. Same technique.
Is the motorcyclist that was followed and video recorded by the helicopter fleeing from Deputy Kafinas' traffic stop the same motorcyclist that was video recorded driving to the Wawa?
Yes, sir.
Is that the same person that was filmed doing the wheelies and driving recklessly, as you said,
Yes, sir.
and driving fast?
Yes, sir.
Was it passing other cars on the road?
Yes, sir.
Was it even outpacing the police cruisers?
Oh, yes, sir.
Was that motorcyclist later identified to be Jean-Bray Tobayerga?
Yes, sir.
Is there any doubt in your mind that the person the STAR unit directed Deputy Crawford to at the Wawa was the same person observed fleeing from Deputy Kafinas?
No, there's no doubt.
Is there any doubt in your mind that that was the same person, meaning the same person STAR directed Deputy Crawford to at the Wawa? Any doubt whether it was the same person that Deputy Kafinas had identified as the suspect in the earlier aggravated assault?
No doubt.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? I'm now approaching you with what's been pre-marked for identification as defense E. Can you go ahead and open the envelope and take a look at what's inside? And do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, sir. That's my name.
Is that how you recognize it? Because you initialed that?
Yes, sir.
And did you have an opportunity to view the file that is on this flash drive?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did you recognize the file that was on that flash drive?
Yes, sir. It's the same one you indicated in the question.
So was this the video from the that the SAR helicopter you were in on February 27, 2022 was recording.
Yes, sir.
The same video that shows the actions of the suspect, Barreto Vallarga, all the way from when he fled from the traffic stop all the way through to when he's at the Wawa.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd now like to move into evidence what's been pre-marked as defense E as defense 1.
Any objection?
Not beyond previous objection.
Okay. At this time, what was marked for identification as defense exhibit E will be admitted as as defense exhibit 1, and you may publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I approach the clerk just to do about this? Sorry, hooked up. And sir, are you able to see the video behind you? Commissioner, approach the witness.
You may.
I'm just going to get a laser pointer out. I can handy just to point some things out. So at this point in the video, are you able to identify, based on your real-time observations back on February 27, 2022, whether Deputy Kafinas is in this video?
Yes, sir. This is Mark Barber there.
Are you able to identify the suspect that are identified as Jean Barreto Vallarga?
Yes, sir. It's right down the motorcycle.
Thank you. And what does appear to you that he's doing at that time, motorcyclist?
Definitely doing a wheelie.
Do you have any experience with motorcycles at all, even general knowledge?
Yes, sir. I'm a police motorcycle instructor.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. In order, so let me break that down a bit. So you are, say that one more time, so I didn't quite hear you.
I'm a certified police motorcycle instructor.
So you have knowledge, personal knowledge about how to ride motorcycles,
Yes, sir.
how they function,
Yes, sir.
and how they operate.
Yes, sir.
When somebody riding a motorcycle is doing a wheelie, does that require them to continuously give a lot of throttle in order to maintain that upright position?
Yes, sir.
And does it essentially redline the RPMs of that engine as they're doing it?
Yes, sir. It does.
So when a motorcyclist is doing a wheelie, it is pushing that machine to the limits that that machine can handle.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And one more time, are you able to observe the suspect in this photograph?
Yes, sir.
And does he appear to be on a street at this time?
No, sir. He's on the sidewalk.
Is that legal?
No, sir. It's not.
Is that dangerous?
Yes, sir. It is.
Do pedestrians walk on sidewalks?
Yes, they do.
At this time, which lane is the motorcyclist traveling in?
He's in what I call the suicide lane. It's a divider between the two moving traffics.
Is that a through traffic lane where it's legal just to drive straight through it?
No, sir. You can see the solid yellow line on the inside, saying that you're not supposed to be in there. Passing vehicles driving on.
Now, at this point, does it appear that the suspect's gone under a tree?
Yes, sir, we did.
Is there a standard protocol that you follow whenever you temporarily lose sight of a suspect?
Yes, sir. Typically, what we do is, if they go under a tree like that, we'll zoom out so we see 360 degrees to see which way he comes out from under the tree, like he did here.
At this point in the video, have you reacquired the same suspect that you were following before?
Yes, sir. The target was reacquired.
Is that based on all your visual observations of that suspect prior?
Yes, sir.
I'm just going to back it up. Now we're going. I'm stopping the picture here. Are you still able to identify the suspect?
Yes, sir.
Please point to him.
Sure.
And do you see a vehicle to the left?
Yes, sir.
What do you recognize that vehicle to be?
That is one of our county, Osceola County Sheriff Mark units.
And it says the word sheriff right down the side.
Yes, sir.
Does it appear to you from your observations that the suspect looked directly and kept looking at that police vehicle as he was passing it?
Yes, sir.
What are you observing here?
He's doing all wheelies.
That we're requiring again to rev the RPMs all the way up?
Yes, sir. Get enough to get front of it off the ground.
And did he just perform a U-turn?
Yes, sir, he did.
Was that a legal U-turn?
Yes, sir.
Did you just observe how the motorcycle passed that dark SUV to the right?
Yes, sir, he was driving on the right side of the same lane, occupying the same lane.
Is it legal to pass on the right?
Yes, sir.
And what is he doing right here?
Performing another wheelie.
So by our count, we're up to 3 wheelies, correct?
Yes, sir. Actually, I think he made 4.
And each time he's revving that engine all the way up.
Yes, sir.
And at this time, which lane is he traveling in?
Still in the center divider lane.
And is that legal the way he's driving that lane?
No, sir.
observe the motorcycle make a right-hand turn?
Yes, sir.
Now, going back all the way to the left, do you see a white, maybe appears to be a van?
Yes, sir.
Does that appear to be stopped at the stop bar?
Yes, sir, it is.
I'm asking, were you able to observe whether that light was red?
I want to believe that it was. The video may have captured the signal, but I'm not sure.
Is it legal to make a right turn on red without stopping?
As long as once you come running to a police stop, you need to direct turn around. As long as it's not indicated, you cannot.
And in that video, did the suspect make a complete stop?
No, sir. Plus, he's also passing legal on the left.
At this point in the video, do you make any observations about the way suspects riding a motorcycle?
Yes, sir. He's side saddling the bike.
Is that considered safe?
Definitely not safe.
Is it legal?
No, sir.
And at this point, what do you observe him doing?
Performing another wheelie.
So now we're up to 5 wheelies, correct? And he's doing it with only half his body on the motorcycle?
Yes, sir.
And he's still doing the wheelie?
Yes, sir.
So the entire time he's keeping that front tire up, he's revving that engine all the way to the top of the RPMs, right?
Yes, sir.
The limits of its functionality?
Yes, sir.
At this point in the video, did it appear to you that the suspect has taken notice of your presence?
Yes, sir.
How so?
He's indicating he's not pleasant. Happy with us being there by looking at his office.
Is he looking directly at your helicopter?
Yes, sir.
And did he look back at the helicopter a couple more times before he proceeded forward?
Yes, sir.
Right here, where exactly is he driving?
He's called, we call splitting the lanes down the white line.
Is that considered legal in Florida?
No, sir, it's not.
Is it dangerous?
Yes, sir, it is.
Why is it dangerous? What can happen?
Well, from personal experience, me running code through situations like this, car door opens up and you can have an accident real quick.
At this point in the video, are there multiple vehicles stopped at the stop bar?
Yes, sir, there is.
Is that because that's a red light?
Yes, sir.
State has an objection. Sure.
At this time, I need to read you an instruction that I would like you to consider while you're viewing this video. Sometimes evidence may be admitted only for a limited purpose. When I instruct you that an item of evidence has been admitted only for a limited purpose, you must consider it only for that limited purpose and not for any other purpose. An item was received into evidence as Defense Exhibit 1, which is the video that we are currently viewing. This item of evidence may be considered by you only for the limited purpose of assisting you in determining the manner in which John Barreto Barrega operated his motorcycle and how that affected the temperature of the dirt bike driven by John Barreto Barrega and whether that could have caused the fire in this case. Defense Exhibit 1 may also be considered by you for the additional limited purpose of assisting you in determining whether John Barreto Barrega was aware of the presence of the helicopter. So any testimony that you have heard from this witness that is describing any issues of safety in terms of how the bike was being driven, you are to disregard at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
I'm sorry to do that. Deputy, I'll pause the video again. Can you point out the suspect?
Yes, sir.
Does it appear to you that he's again looking up at the helicopter?
It looks like he is, sir.
By your count, would that be the fourth time he's looked back up at the helicopter?
I believe that's correct.
And sir, are you able to identify the suspect in this still?
Yes, sir. He's the one doing the wheeling.
So would that be the sixth wheeler that you observed?
Yes, sir.
I approach the same.
You may.
based on your observations, he's still doing a wheelie?
Yes, sir, it is.
This is for a pretty extended period of time to be doing a wheelie?
Yes, sir.
Does that put a lot of strain on the engine
Yes, sir. There's a lot of torque on that rear tire.
to make it extremely hot, the engine?
Yes, sir.
Sir, what does it appear he's doing now?
Doing another wheel.
Would that be the seventh wheelie?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Judge, I think I did the wrong button. I just started over and This appeared to be just maybe a few seconds before, right? Accidentally just restart the video.
Yes, sir, it is.
Just want to make sure I got spectred up some spot. And at this point, he passing other vehicles. Based on your training experience, what does that tell you about his speed?
It doesn't go faster than the speed limit, which I believe is either 50 or 45 in that area. We also have a speed measuring on our camera. Look up in the upper right hand corner here. If I keep that crosshair on the target moving at the same speed, that'll be approximate speed of what we're doing
So at this moment, he's doing 71 miles per hour.
within that range.
Thank you for pointing that out. Even I didn't know that, so that will be helpful. So at this point, does it indicate how fast he's going?
Roughly about 85.
Just for all of our sakes, if he's not directly in the crosshairs, it's not measuring his speed.
Right. The reason what happens with that, it's like your GPS in your car, which shows you your speed as you're traveling. The camera's doing the same thing across the earth where those crosshairs are. As long as I keep that crosshair at the same pace as that motorcycle, that tells me how fast we're going. If I move the camera a little faster ahead of it, it's going to show a higher speed. So you got to take that into consideration.
Sir, it went pretty quick, but did he just pop another wheelie there?
Yeah, he didn't have enough torque to bring it all the way up. He did a little what we call a bump.
So that would be the eighth wheelie.
Yes, sir.
And now, sometimes it seems almost like maybe the unit's struggling to keep him right in the crosshairs. Is that correct?
Well, typically what happens is, flying a helicopter, we're at a steady speed, well, the suspect slows down, we're going to pass him, well, the pilot's got to slow down. And it's a shuffle game with the camera.
Thank you. And what does it appear he's doing there?
No, it's-
That'd be the ninth, really. Sir, if I may ask you a question. In this video, are we seeing any police cruisers chasing after the suspect?
No, sir.
And why is that? Can you explain that to the jury?
Per our policy, when there's a pursuit, when a vehicle flees, our policy is that the unit has to stop, turn up 180 degrees to go the opposite direction, just so that we don't push a suspect in a dangerous situation. That's where we come in, when we're above the scene. We're not putting any public in danger with us following. The only person in danger is the subject driving.
Does it appear that the suspect is passing other vehicles?
Yes, sir.
Does that indicate to you that he's traveling faster than them?
Yes, sir.
And at this point, you're able to tell how fast he's driving?
Approximately 76 miles an hour.
And you're able to tell approximately how fast he's driving right now?
Approximately.
And I couldn't stop it right at the right time, but did you see the speed go up to over 100 miles per hour?
I'm sure he did at some point throughout this video.
And I'll just draw your attention back up to the speed. And you're quite happy with it. And then And it's hard to stop it right at that moment, but when he was in the crosshairs, did you see the speed bounce up to over 100?
Yeah, but like, if I see, you have to see the fact of the camera moving same brakes.
He still appears to be driving faster than the others.
He's definitely driving faster than other cars on the road.
And are you able to see what kind of a business he just pulled into?
I want to say it's a BP gas station. Or Circle K, I think it's
And he said got gasoline there?
Yes, sir.
Gasoline that can go on motorcycles?
Yes, sir.
Where is the motorcycle right now?
It's underneath the overhang over the pumps.
And did it appear that the suspect has now left the BP gas station?
Yes, sir. He came out this way right there. Can I explain what's happening now?
Yes, please.
Just to let you know, in the helicopter, we're banking and turning. The camera can only rotate so far, and especially if the pilot does a hard bank into the camera will what we call geo-lock, and that's why it's shaking like that. It's not the observer, it's just that the camera can't go anywhere that we want it to because of the angle of the helicopter. So,
And so then you have to readjust both the angle of the helicopter and the angle of the camera.
right, once the pilot comes around and levels out, then the camera can move freely again, and we reprime the target.
And is that the same target that you just reacquired?
Yes, sir. As an observer, we try to pick up identifiers on the person we're following, if it's a car or it's a person.
Objection, Your Honor, there's no question. It's narrating.
Sir, when you're trying to reacquire a target, how do you do that?
We pick up indicators on either a vehicle or a person. On this particular case, I would identify him by his red helmet and white shoes and the color of the bike. And then the writing on the back is black shirt. That's how I identify it. If I lose sight of him under a tree or something, he comes out.
And sir, is fleeing from the police a felony in the state of Florida?
Yes, sir.
Objection. Same objection.
May we approach? Just briefly, did it switch camera modes there?
Yes, sir. That was the thermal mode of the camera mode.
And that was the infrared camera that you were talking about earlier?
Yes, sir.
time, but did you see him pop another quick wheelie?
I missed that one, sir.
Okay, so that was another little wheelie.
Yes, sir.
So that would bring us up to 9.
Yes, sir.
And just for the jury's sake, I know he says a little bump, but when he's doing that, would he still be revving up the engine as he's trying to accomplish that bump of a wheelie?
Yeah, you have to get the RPMs up on the engine to apply that, what we call positive rear torque to the rear tires, bring it front end off the ground.
And so it's still pushing the engine to high limits even when a quick little bump of a wheelie?
Yes, sir, your RPMs are going down.
And can you explain to the jury what just happened there with the camera modes?
Again, this is the clear mode, and you can tell that by the indicator right here, which is we're in manual mode of the clear mode. Right now he's balancing the gains, the levels.
And at this point, can you point to the motorcycle?
Yes, sir, it's the very white area right there.
Okay. Are you able to see below it on the road another vehicle?
Yes, sir, that's a vehicle right there.
Okay, so why is that vehicle not bright white and the motorcycle is?
This one is being driven, but it has been driven for a very long period of time, and it has not been driven very fast to create that heat in the engine yet. So it could have just been started, or it could have been driving for a while for a low speed.
So would it be safe to say that car is not very hot at this time?
No, sir, it's definitely not.
What about the bike?
It's definitely putting on some heat.
Would you say a high amount of heat?
Yes, sir, definitely.
And where does it appear that the motorcyclist has now arrived?
It's in the parking lot of the wall.
And where is he now?
I pulled it to a gas pump.
Under the overhang?
Yes, sir.
And is this the second overhang at the second gas station he's been under
Yes, sir.
since we've been watching?
Yes, sir.
And at this time, is the same motorcyclist been watching the whole time in the crosshairs at that gas pump?
Yes, sir.
And throughout all of this, is the helicopter relaying updates to the deputies?
Yes, sir.
Was the helicopter relaying this as his exact location of the suspect?
Yes, sir. In our helicopter, we have what we call an augmented reality system, where it gives us addresses in live. Wherever that crosshair is at, it will give the address of that location. And we can put that over the radio to the units on the ground.
And did that happen in this particular instance?
Yes, sir.
So you called the other deputies, including David Crawford, to that specific address, with that specific motorcyclist, at that specific pump?
Objection as to S.
What was the objection?
The objection was as to David Crawford, called David Crawford. It's the same.
Was that broadcast over the radio channel? All the deputies in this area were all tuned into?
Yes, sir.
And do you know whether Deputy David Crawford was working in that area
Yes, sir.
at that time?
Yes, sir.
And after you had in fact relayed observations about his location, Deputy Crawford actually arrived at that location?
Yes, sir.
So it's safe to assume he was listening to that.
Yes, sir.
At this time, what does it appear that the suspect is doing?
It looks like he's trying to get fuel for the motorcycle.
And did you broadcast over the same radio channel that it appeared that he was feeling up or something to that effect?
Yes, sir.
At this point, can you see the suspect you point to him?
Yes, sir. He moved up to the next pump.
And did you relay over the radio that he had moved to a new pump?
Yeah, the information was relayed out to the ground units.
And did you then direct the ground units to that exact motorcyclist at that exact pump?
Yes, sir. The information was put out that he moved up.
Now, at this point, can you point to the motorcycle?
Yes, sir. It's right there.
And do you make any observations about the heat of that motorcycle?
Yeah, you can see where the engine has been at a hard hand. The engine block is hotter. If you look right here, this car has been driven for a while. If you look at the tires, they're really hot. That means it was driven at a high rate of speed, heating up the rubber. Where this car has not been driven as long, and the tires are not as hot, and the engine block is not as hot.
Based on your observations, are you able to tell whether his motorcycle, based on all the coloration, is hotter than the other vehicles?
Yes, sir.
video. Can you tell me the time you stopped that house?
Yes, 1956.
Sorry.
And
You wouldn't mind leaving it up unless you're going to do something.
oh yeah, I'll leave it up. Do you
Thank you so
want
much.
to bring the lights back up? So, Deputy, by your count, did you observe at least 9 different wheelies when you watched that murder, that video?
Yes, sir.
And did you observe that particular motorcycle to be extremely hot,
Yes, sir.
hotter than normal?
Yes, sir.
And did you observe that motorcyclist look up at the helicopter on 4 different occasions?
Yes, sir.
And did you observe him go under the overhang of a BP gas station prior to arriving at the Wawa?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may we approach for counsel?
Yeah.
Deputy, let's put the video out of your mind for a second. So moving on from the video, just generally speaking, is fleeing from the police a felony in the state of Florida?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are law enforcement officers in the state of Florida allowed to use force to detain a fleeing suspect?
Objection.
Sustained.
No further questions.
Good afternoon, Deputy. With all that stuff on you, it's still just deputy?
I'm sorry, say it again.
With all those medals and combinations, it's still just regular old deputy? Okay. There were some questions early on about muscle memory. Do you remember those questions?
Yes, sir.
You're certainly not suggesting that law enforcement officers shouldn't think critically about the situations they find themselves in.
No, sir.
You would agree with me, I assume, that when law enforcement encounters difficult circumstances, one of the most important things they can do is think their way through it,
Correct.
particularly when they're given enough time to do so beforehand.
If you're given enough time, yes, sir.
Right. It's not a situation where you're just constantly reacting and not thinking.
No, sir.
That would be dangerous.
That would be very dangerous.
Yes, okay. Would you also agree with me that, according to your agency's policy, the amount of force that an officer can use varies depending upon the circumstances?
Yes, sir.
In fact, would you agree that it is entirely dependent on the circumstances?
It is, sir.
And when I say the circumstances, can we agree that it's the circumstances confronting the specific deputy in that moment?
Yes, sir.
Right? What they knew and what they were observing in that moment.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can we also agree that the number one responsibility of every deputy is public safety?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that making an arrest is always subservient or less important than public safety?
As long as that arrest prevents injury to other people, yes.
Right. So in other words, if making the arrest serves public safety, they're the same thing. But if making an arrest means endangering people, that would be subservient. The arrest would be subservient to protecting the public.
Yes, sir.
All right. In fact, I think you described your agency's fleeing policy serves that very purpose, right?
Yes, sir.
The reason that we don't see any law enforcement vehicles chasing the motorcycle is because your agency decided that it's more important to protect the public than to chase a vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Because chasing the vehicle creates a public safety risk.
Yes, sir.
And I think you said when the person is fleeing, the only risk is to the individual fleeing.
Yes, sir. Up until he crashes.
Right. And then it could crash into someone else.
Right.
Okay. Now, I don't feel the need to play it for you again. I feel like you remember the video. Is that fair?
Pretty much sure it is.
Can you agree with me that at the very beginning of the video, there are dozens of motorcycles on the scene?
Oh, definitely, sir.
Dozens of motorcycles, some of which have the same color.
Yes, sir.
Can you agree that at the beginning of the video, it could be difficult to determine one motorcycle from another?
Yes, sir.
Were you ever concerned, observing that the description of the suspect of the aggravated assault might be lost in the shuffle or missed?
At that particular moment, our goal was to track a fleeing vehicle. That's what our job was at the time.
Okay.
We were initially looking forward to aggravated assault suspect, but then our attention focused to the fleeing vehicle that the unit called out.
I understand. So I'm interpreting you to say, yes, that would be a concern if you could try and find a person with a firearm.
Yes, sir.
You have Jack, counsel testifying what his interpretations are.
Overruled.
Would you agree that it would be difficult under the circumstances you first observed to identify with any kind of certainty who the suspect was of the aggravated assault?
Correct. Our job as a technical flight officer, we get the information to look for a suspect. When we find a person matching that description, my first job is to verify that that's the suspect we're looking for, and I'll have ground units verify that for me.
And to be clear, the suspect that you were following was the suspect of the flee,
Yes, sir.
not the aggravated assault.
That I can't tell you. All I know is that we were focused on the fleeing vehicle.
Okay.
Whether it was involved or not, I cannot testify to that.
Fair enough. So to break that down, you never personally saw the aggravated assault.
No.
You certainly never saw the individual on the bike who ends up getting fired with a firearm,
I
right?
did not see it.
You never see him in all that time discard a firearm, right?
It was not visible enough.
Right. And you would agree with me that you, based upon what you saw on this day, had no personal knowledge whatsoever that that person had a firearm.
Correct.
You were following him because he fled from law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'd like to look at the video. Some stuff that happens after the defense stopped it. Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Just to set the scene for the members of the jury, thank you so much. There's going to come a point in this video where Deputy David Crawford comes into the scene.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell members of the jury, if you want to use a laser pointer that you have, where we should look for him when he first emerges?
When he first comes on scene, he comes from the bottom right here.
Okay. Did you see his vehicle drive up?
I did not see
Did you see where it parked?
it. Not initially, no, sir.
Okay. Do you know where it ended up being?
Yes, sir. I did.
Where did it end up being?
It was parked next to the building right here,
So the way we're looking at it on the right side of the building.
right here. If you're facing wall, I'll be on the left.
Okay, understood. So I'm going to forward the video now. I'm at 1956 on the video.
Here, may we approach?
You may.
So, sorry about that, Deputy. So, just so I'm clear, if I do it wrong, tell me. You see? Yeah, I've got a green one too. It's down here is where you parked?
Yes, sir. If you back the video, you can actually see it there.
Okay, yes, sir.
Just like a couple seconds. Right there.
Oh, I do see it. All right, could you circle it for us, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's go back even a little further down. From where you were, could you see the child running?
Yeah, well, you can see it on the video on the area, sir.
Yes, sir. Do you remember seeing it in real time?
No, sir, I do not.
All right. Can you see Deputy Crawford now?
Yes, sir. I do.
All right. So can we agree he's coming from around the right side of the building, right?
Correct.
So as he's looking forward, would you agree that he has an entire view of all of the gas stations?
Pretty much, yes, sir.
And this is, would you agree, seconds after the child just ran from that area of the gas station towards the front of the wall?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to play it all the way through. I'll let you focus on Deputy Crawford for me, if you don't mind. You see him?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Does he appear to be in a hurry to you?
He's walking normally.
Right. And as he's walking, would you agree that he still has a view of the entire gas station?
Well, from this point on forward, yes. I mean, they may not be able to see back behind them.
Would you agree that this family in the back of this SUV is right within his
That's objection.
vision?
Speculation as to what he did see.
Sustained.
I'm not asking you what he saw. Would it be in his field of vision?
It should be
Objection, same objection, Judge.
Sustained.
Do you know how long Deputy Crawford had from when he started walking around the side of the building until he got to the pump to observe everything?
I wouldn't know exactly the time. I mean, you'd have to play the video and track the time difference.
It certainly wasn't a second or two, right?
No, sir.
Would you agree with me that it was plenty of time for him to evaluate the situation?
There could be time, yes, sir.
There was time. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have any other questions for the video, Your Honor, if you want to push it. Thank you so much. I have a couple more, okay? So, I think I heard you say that everybody involved in law enforcement with this incident was on the same frequency. Is that right?
They should have been, yes, sir.
Right. So, all the information was being shared to everyone at the same time.
Anybody that was on that frequency would have heard the transmissions.
Right. And that's so that all law enforcement can be informed about what's happening in the moment,
Yes, sir.
so they can prepare themselves.
Yes, sir.
Did I hear you say earlier that there was no doubt that this was the suspect of the aggravated assault with a firearm?
If I said that, I was indicating that there's a vehicle that we saw fleeing the vehicle from the traffic stop.
Okay.
I have no doubt about that.
All right. So I'm going to phrase it differently, and if I say it wrong, you tell me. You do have a doubt about whether or not this motorcycle was the suspect of the aggravated assault,
I cannot 100% prove that it was.
right? You don't know that it was.
No, sir.
Can we agree that law enforcement's reaction to a suspect is very different if they're believed to be armed than if they are not armed?
I'm sorry, I said that again.
Would you agree that law enforcement reaction to a suspect will be very different if they're armed as opposed to unarmed?
I can't say for other deputies, but for myself, I consider everybody armed until I prove that they're not.
But if you're told specifically that a suspect is armed, you would approach them differently than if they were not.
Yes, sir. If information given that it could be possibly armed, this my approach would be more tactical.
Given the different approach, would you agree that it is important that law enforcement get that information right?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember listening to the radio traffic in this case, Deputy?
Yes, sir.
Right. Do you remember somebody asking over the radio if this was the suspect of the aggravated assault?
I believe that was on the video, yes, sir.
And do you remember the response to that?
Yes, sir.
The response was, no, it's not.
Objection, counsel testifying.
I'll ask it a different way. Isn't it true that the response on the radio was, no, this was not the aggravated assault suspect?
That was put over, yes, sir.
Right. The same radio that it went out to everybody else who was listening in this case,
Yes, sir.
prior to Deputy Crawford going to the gas station.
Yes, sir.
Anybody listening to that should have known that the suspect was not the aggravated assault suspect, right?
If they picked up that information, yes, sir.
One last thing. When you were observing the suspect of the fleeing at the gas station, were you describing his motions out over the radio?
Typically what we try to do is we provide the ground units the direction the vehicle's traveling, the manner that it's traveling, and the reckless or what they're doing, cutting traffic, other traffic in the area, just for the supervisor to maintain control of the situation.
That's a poor question on my part. When the motorcycle got to the gas station, were you describing what it was doing so the other units could be aware?
Yes, sir. We try to give them a play-by-play.
Right. And do you remember what you said moments before Deputy Crawford contacted the suspect about what the suspect was doing?
I'm going to have to have you rephrase that question because I was not talking on the radio.
Do you remember hearing on the radio someone saying, he's getting fuel, pump number 4?
Yes, sir.
I don't have any other questions.
Redirect, Mr. Barber.
Now, the state just asked you if at some point someone asked over the radio if it was the suspect of aggravated assault, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that somebody had responded that they weren't sure, correct? Do you also remember that right after that, they said, he matches the, we are not sure, ... He matches the description, blue dirt bike covered up. I do have charges for fleeing now.
Yes, sir.
So based on that, did you take that as an indication they didn't know 100% for sure he committed aggravated assault?
He just matched the description of the suspect
Right.
involved.
Now, when somebody matches the description of a suspect, commits an aggravated assault with a firearm, is that reasonable suspicion to stop that person to investigate that crime?
Yes, sir.
Police officers don't need to know 100% somebody already committed a crime before they stop them to investigate that crime, do they?
Yes, sir.
Would you ever be able to investigate any crime ever if you had to know 100% for sure if they committed it before you started your investigation? Prior to that radio transmission we just discussed, did Deputy Kafinas transmit over the radio that he was behind the suspect of the 53 ag?
That's what he indicated with the radio, sir.
And can you explain to the jury what the code 53 ag means?
It's an aggravated assault with firearm or weapon.
So based on that, Deputy Kafinas had clearly communicated that this was a suspect of aggravated assault, correct?
Yes, sir.
And all the radio transmissions that the state just talked about, they don't negate the fact, do they, that Deputy Kafinas identified this as a suspect of aggravated assault?
Objection. Conclusion negated.
Sustained.
Phrase it. In your mind, after you heard what we aren't sure but he matches the description, the blue dirt bike covered up, I do have charges for fleeing for now. When you heard that, in your mind, did that make you believe, oh, okay, well, he's not a suspect in aggravated assault anymore?
Yes, sir.
So at that point, you still believed he's a suspect in aggravated assault.
He was a possible suspect.
And you guys were trying to apprehend that suspect, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when I say you guys, I mean Osceola County Sheriff's Office.
Yes, sir.
And Deputy Crawford was one of those deputies working that day, correct?
Yes, sir.
He responded to apprehend him.
Yes, sir.
So when you said you couldn't say 100% for sure if this person committed aggravated assault, is that, oh, never mind, I think I covered that. Does the fact that you couldn't say 100% for sure that he's a suspect in aggravated assault make you believe that he does not pose a danger?
Say that again?
Yes, sorry, maybe I could word that a little better. Right. So if you can't say for sure, 100%, he committed aggravated assault, right? Based on that, would you still believe, he hasn't risen to 100% yet, but would you still have a concern that this person is dangerous based on the reports that you heard over the radio?
He possibly dangerous, yes, sir.
And as a trained law enforcement officer, do you receive training in how to respond to potentially dangerous individuals?
Yes, sir.
Potentially dangerous individuals who are accused of aggravated assault?
Yes, sir.
And you match the description?
Yes, sir.
How are you trained to respond to people like that?
You try to, first off, get them in a location that would benefit the apprehension, and then you would move up tactically. Try not to give your hand as to your presence to the suspect, so you have the upper hand on the apprehension, and then you go hand-on and take the custody.
Is that what you observed at Crawford do from your vantage point in the helicopter?
Yes, sir.
Now, the state was talking about what Deputy Crawford could or could not see. As a law enforcement officer, have you been in tense, fast-paced situations?
Oh, yes, sir.
Have you been in situations where your adrenaline's pumping?
Yes, sir.
Situations like that? Have you ever gotten tunnel vision?
Yes, sir.
Is that something that's common that many humans experience?
It's very common. It's something that is hard to overcome. It's just a natural reaction.
And does that limit somebody's field of view?
View and hearing.
Attention, qualifications to answer these questions.
Sustained.
Now, when the state crossed you, you had stated that it did appear that maybe Deputy Crawford had time to, when he was going around the building, to assess the situation, correct?
Yes, sir.
After he came around the building, did he go and stage himself behind a pillar?
Yes, sir.
And did he wait behind that pillar until other units arrived?
Yes, sir.
So it appeared to you that he did assess the situation.
It appeared to be, yes, sir.
Now, the state asked you whether you would ever visually observe the suspect discard a firearm, correct?
Yes, sir.
Were there times where that suspect drove under things that blocked your view?
Yes, sir.
It's maybe overhangs at gas stations.
Overhangs, trees, yes, sir.
And there were times where you explained how the camera kind of maxes out and you have to reposition, where you lost sight of him,
Yes,
correct?
sir. A few seconds, yes, sir.
Were any of those periods of time where you lost direct sight of him long enough for somebody to just discard an item?
Yes, sir.
When officers are making their decisions in the field, do they have to make their decisions based on the information known to them at that time?
Yes, sir.
You testified about critically thinking through situations and why that's important if there's time for it to be done, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you agree that in fast-moving situations, there's not always time for that?
Not always, yes, sir.
And would it also depend upon the threat level of the suspect?
Yes, sir.
And in this case, based on the reports you heard over the radio, did you reasonably believe that this suspect posed a danger to other people in the community?
Yes, sir.
People on the roadways?
Yes, sir.
People at the Wawa?
Yes, sir.
Law enforcement officers?
Yes, sir.
Now, the helicopter unit, based on their observations and the report from Deputy Kafinas, directed the deputies, including Deputy Crawford, to that specific suspect at that specific gas pump, correct?
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
Thank you, Deputy. Please. Mr. Barber,
So just, yes, he's
do
excused.
you need him for anything, Mr. Williams? Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Members of the jury, would you like to